kids, it's Mrs. Desjardins, and I am back for another read aloud. Now this is one of our curriculum ones. This one is called Crow Boy. Here's the book. So before we read the book, we're going to go over a few things. First of all, I'm going to introduce you to the characters and the problem. Crow Boy is a story about a shy boy who goes to school in a village far from home. He is scared of everything, and the other children do not talk or play with him. They nickname him Chibi, which means small boy in Japanese. They sometimes call him mean names like stupid and slowpoke. Is that very nice? No, never. Will Chibi go through school without ever making friends? Well, let's find out what happens. Before we do that, I do want to go over some vocabulary that there might be in the book that might get stumped on. First of all, nickname. What's a nickname? Well, a nickname is a special name given to someone instead of his or her real name. Like my son's name, his given name is Samuel, but we call him Sam. That's his nickname. Now, foot of the class. What does that mean? That is last in the group of students in the class. Forlorn, that means sad or unhappy. Tag along. What do you do if you tag along? Well, tag along, someone who follows but is not really part of a group. How about to kill time? Well, that just means to keep busy while you wait for time to pass. Do something that keeps you busy. Tact, well, in this case, tact means to hang up something on the wall. How about imitate? What's imitate mean? It means to do something the same way as someone else. How about honored? That means to be treated as special in some way. And perfect attendance, what does that mean? Well, it means when you don't miss a day of school or work. So now, let's get to the right page. I'll ask you some questions too. Let's read a Crow Boy. On the first day of our village school in Japan, there was a boy missing. He was found hidden away in the dark space underneath the schoolhouse floor. None of us knew him. He was nicknamed Chibi because he was very small. Chibi means tiny boy. See, there he is hiding. This strange boy was afraid of our teacher and could not learn a thing. He was afraid of the children and could not make friends with them at all. He was left alone at study time. He was left alone at playtime. He was always at the end of the line, always at the foot of the class, a forlorn little tag-along. There he is behind everybody else. Soon Chibi began to make his eyes cross-eyed, so that he was able not to see whatever he did not want to see. And Chibi found many ways, one after another, to kill time and amuse himself. Just the ceiling was interesting enough for him to watch for hours. The wooden top of his desk was another thing interesting to watch. A patch of cloth on a boy's shoulder was something to study. Of course, the window showed him many things all year round. Even when it was raining, the window had surprising things to show him. On the playground, if he closed his eyes and listened, Chibi could hear many different sounds, near and far. And Chibi could hold and watch insects and grubs that most of us wouldn't touch or even look at. So that not only the children in our class, but the older ones and even the younger ones called him stupid and slowpoke. Those are horrible things you should never say to anyone. But slowpoke or not, day after day, Chibi came trudging to school. He always carried the same lunch, a rice ball wrapped in a radish leaf. Even when it rained or stormed, he still came trudging along, wrapped in a raincoat made from dried zebra grass. And so, day by day, 5 years went by, and we were in the 6th grade, the last class in school. Our new teacher was Mr. Asobi. He was a friendly man with a kind smile. Mr. Asobi often took his class to the hilltop behind the school. He was pleased to learn that Chibi knew all the places where the wild grapes and wild potatoes grew. He was amazed to find how much Chibi knew about all the flowers in our class garden. He liked Chibi's black and white drawings and tacked them up on the wall to be admired. He liked Chibi's own handwriting, which no one but Chibi could read, and he tacked that up on the wall. And he often spent time talking with Chibi when no one was around. But when Chibi appeared on the stage at the talent show of that year, no one could believe his eyes. Who is that? What can that stupid do up there? Till Mr. Asobi announced that Chibi was going to imitate crows. Voices of crows. Voices of crows? Voices of crows. First, he imitated the voices of newly hatched crows, and he made the mother crow's voice. Then he imitated the father crow's voice. He showed how crows cry early in the morning. Then he showed how crows cry when the village people have some unhappy accident. He showed how crows call when they were happy and gay. Everybody's mind was taken to the far mountainside from which Chibi probably came to the school. At the end, to imitate a crow on an old tree, Chibi made a very special sound deep down in his throat. Coo-wat, coo-wat. Now everybody could imagine exactly the far and lonely place where Chibi lived with his family. Then Mr. Asobi explained how Chibi had learned those calls, leaving his home for school at dawn. That's right when the sun comes up, and arriving home at sunset every day for 6 long years. Every one of us cried, thinking how much we had been wrong to Chibi all these long years. Even grown-ups wiped their eyes, saying, "Yes, yes, he is wonderful." Chibi was the only one in our class honored for perfect attendance through all 6 years. After school was over, the big boys would often have to work to do in the village for their families. Sometimes Chibi came to the village to sell the charcoal he and his family made, but nobody called him Chibi anymore. We all called him Crow Boy. Hi, Crow Boy. Crow Boy would nod and smile as if he liked the name. And when his work was done, he would buy a few things for his family. Then he would set off for his home on the far side of the mountain, stretching his growing shoulders proudly like a grown-up man. And from around the turn of the mountain road would come a crow call, the happy one. Okay, that is our story, Crow Boy. Now, on the first day of school, Chibi hides underneath the schoolhouse, doesn't he? I think he's very afraid because he doesn't know what will happen. And Chibi's also always left alone after school. He seems to spend a lot of time using his imagination or doing things on his own, doesn't he? And when Mr. Asobi arrives, Chibi and he talk a lot together. Chibi must feel very safe and comfortable with Mr. Asobi. Now, I want you to think about these things. Chibi knows all about the flowers, wild grapes, and potatoes that grow on the hilltop behind the school. How do you think Chibi learned about those plants? And also, here's another one. Chibi got an award for going to school every single day. How do you think that made him feel? And lastly, Chibi travels a long way from home to school and then from from school back to home. Why do you think he takes that long walk to and from school every day? Well, I want you to think about those things. You will hear the story one more time. Ms. Riza will read it that time. So I hope you enjoyed that story. Got a little something out of that. I will see you guys later for another story time.